The sound of rain drumming against the metal roof of the garage enveloped Evan as he adjusted the radio, searching for a clear signal on the AM frequency. The familiar crackle brought a sense of comfort to his otherwise routine day. His hands moved deftly over the knobs, hoping to catch a tune that would cut through the monotony. Outside, the gray clouds hung heavy, a mirror to his mood. But it was that F-150, the blue truck he had picked up at the estate sale, that drew him in like a moth to a flame. Slipping into the driver's seat, he inhaled deeply, the scent of old leather mixed with gasoline wrapping around him like a warm blanket. It was a world of its own, a refuge filled with the echoes of countless stories etched into the fabric of the vehicle. He could almost hear the laughter and arguments of previous owners. Each mile logged a testament to life lived. It was then, as he looked around, that he noticed something unusual, something that would change everything. His gaze fell to the floorboards, where a faint glimmer caught his eye. Curiosity piqued. Evan leaned down, his heart racing, and checked under the seat. There it was, a dusty cassette tape, labeled I-35, Rainy Night, and a bundle of letters tied together with fading twine. The moment felt weighty, as if the universe had conspiringly pushed him to this very spot. In that instant, Evan realized he was holding on to a past that wasn't his own. The rain intensified, drumming louder against the metal, echoing the sudden rush of adrenaline coursing through him. Carefully, he pulled out the cassette and letters, each item heavy with untold stories. He could feel the weight of the moment. This was not just debris left behind. It was a portal to something deeper. As he held the cassette, an odd sense of nostalgia washed over him, a yearning for connection to a life he had never known. Evan glanced around the dimly lit garage, the shadows lengthening with the fading daylight. He could almost hear his father's voice, a memory surfacing. A real man comes back. Those words, spoken long ago, lingered like a ghost. Suddenly, he felt like a trespasser in someone else's life, a bystander intruding on memories that were not his to claim. What had this man done? Who was M? His heart raced with intrigue and unease. He turned the letters over in his hands, each one dated exactly 20 years earlier, all addressed to the same person. The first letter spoke of a minor accident, of a promise to return and seek forgiveness. It was a promise interrupted by man-things, the very same excuses Evan often clung to for his own shortcomings. As the rain continued to patter against the roof, Evan's thoughts spiraled, caught between the allure of uncovering the past and the fear of what he might find. In that small, cluttered garage, a storm brewed both outside and within him, setting the stage for a journey that would lead him to confront not just the echoes of a stranger's life, but the shadows of his own. Evan, a 42-year-old mechanic from Mason City, Iowa, lived a simple life, one grounded in the familiar rhythms of small-town existence. His daily routine was as predictable as the changing seasons, each day blending into the next with the comforting monotony of work and the small joys that came with it. He woke before dawn, the faint light creeping through the bedroom window serving as his cue to rise. The old alarm clock on his nightstand, a relic from his father, buzzed with a stubborn insistence that made him smile, a reminder of the mornings spent in this very house. He'd brew a pot of coffee, the rich aroma mingling with the musty scent of his old home, a small house built by his father, time-worn yet sturdy. The kitchen table was always set with the same chipped plates, and the radio would crackle to life, playing classic country songs that felt like home. The comforting voice of Hank Williams or the twangy guitar of Johnny Cash wrapped around him like a warm embrace, grounding him as he prepared for the day ahead. After a quick breakfast of toast and eggs, he'd climb into his weathered pickup truck, a faded red model that had seen better days, and drive the 10 minutes to Clara's diner. There, the usual morning crowd gathered, a mix of farmers, factory workers, and local business owners. Clara, the owner, was a sprightly woman in her 60s, with hair that shone like silver under the diner's fluorescent lights. She had a knack for knowing what customers needed, often filling Evan's coffee cup before he even asked. "Morning, Evan. The usual?" Clara would say, her voice warm and inviting. "Yeah, Clara, you know me too well," Evan would chuckle, taking his usual seat at the corner booth, the one with a view of the window. He'd watch the sun rise over Main Street, illuminating the small shops and the old movie theater that had long seen better days. Outside, the world bustled, but inside the diner, time felt like it had slowed down. He enjoyed the comfort of routine, the predictability of life, where engines could be fixed and problems solved with a wrench and a bit of elbow grease. But on this rainy day, as he sat in the garage with the cassette tape and letters in hand, the warmth of his routine felt distant. The discovery had unsettled him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the verge of something significant. He recalled his father's words, "A real man comes back." They echoed in his mind, intertwining with the mystery of the items he had found. He leaned back in the seat, the rain still drumming a steady rhythm above him. The F-150, with its worn leather and faded blue paint, was a tangible link to the past, and he felt an inexplicable connection to it. What had this truck seen? What stories had it carried? He couldn't help but wonder about the lives intertwined with the cassette and letters, about the man who had once owned it, and the woman waiting for him. Evan's thoughts drifted to the letters tied with twine. The spidery handwriting spoke of regrets and longing, of promises made and broken. With a mix of trepidation and curiosity, he gently untied the bundle, the twine scratching against his calloused fingers. The first letter, dated 2 decades prior, was filled with youthful bravado. It recounted a minor accident on I-35, where the writer had swerved to avoid a deer, narrowly escaping disaster. In that moment, the writer expressed a desire to come back to the woman he loved, to seek her forgiveness and to prove that he had changed. As he read, Evan felt a pang of recognition. He had made similar promises in his own life, promises to himself, to his father, to the people he cared about. A real man comes back, he thought again, this time questioning whether he had lived up to those words. The rain continued to fall, blurring the world outside the garage. The letters spoke of a man who had struggled with his own shortcomings, much like Evan. He had run from his past, buried himself in work, and avoided the complexities of love. The weight of his own unresolved feelings began to settle heavily on his chest. The second letter was more poignant, filled with vulnerability. It spoke of loneliness and heartache, revealing the depth of the woman's feelings. She had written about waiting, about the pain of uncertainty, and how the absence of her love felt like a shadow that darkened her days. As Evan read, he thought of Clara, the waitress with the warm smile, and how he had never had the courage to ask her about her own life beyond the diner. The final letter was the hardest to digest. It hinted at a finality that made Evan's stomach turn. The writer expressed regret for not returning, for letting time slip away, and for leaving things unsaid. "You deserve better," it concluded. "I hope you find someone who can give you everything I couldn't." Evan felt a lump form in his throat. He thought of the echoes of his own past, of relationships that had faded, of friendships that had drifted apart, and of the weight of silence that had built walls around him. As the tape in his hand felt warmer, he flipped it over, the label now smudged and barely legible. I-35, rainy night. It felt like an invitation, a call to listen to the echoes of someone else's life, and perhaps to confront his own. With trembling fingers, he placed the cassette into the player, pressing play. The crackle of the tape filled the small garage, the sound rich with nostalgia. As the voice poured out, Evan leaned in, captivated. "Hey, if you're listening, it means I finally got the courage to record something for you after all this time," the voice began, warm, yet tinged with sorrow. It was a man's voice, low and resonant, filled with the weight of years gone by. "I wanted to tell you about that night on I-35, the rain pouring down like a curtain, making it hard to see what lay ahead. I remember feeling lost." Evan's heart raced as the recording unfolded, the man's words painting vivid pictures of a rainy night drive, of a near accident, and of a promise made to return. The tape played on, revealing snippets of a life that felt achingly familiar. as if he were peering through the window of someone else's soul. "I was scared," the voice continued. "Scared of not being enough. Scared of facing you again. But I need you to know that a real man comes back, no matter how long it takes." The rain continued to patter against the roof, but in that moment, Evan felt as though the storm outside was a reflection of the turmoil churning within him. He thought of Clara, of the way she smiled at him like she saw something more beneath his rough exterior. Did she know about his fears? Did she carry her own burdens of unspoken words? As the recording ended, silence enveloped the garage, leaving Evan with the weight of his own contemplation. He had been given a glimpse into the past, a past that was not his own, yet felt intimately connected to his own struggles and fears. The letters, the tape, the voice, they had stirred something dormant within him, a longing to confront his own choices and to perhaps reach out to those he had let slip away. He glanced at the letters again, the faded ink telling stories of love, regret, and the unyielding passage of time. Would he be brave enough to take action, to face the ghosts of his past, or would he retreat back into the safety of routine? As the morning light began to seep into the garage, filtering through the grimy windows, Evan felt a flicker of determination igniting within him. He picked up the letters, tucking them under his arm, along with the cassette. The past had called, and it was time for him to answer. Taking a deep breath, he stepped outside into the cool morning air, the scent of rain and damp earth filling his lungs. The path ahead was shrouded in mist, but he understood that sometimes the hardest journeys lead to the most meaningful destinations. With every step he took, he felt the weight of unresolved feelings begin to lift, replaced by the hope of making things right. Evan drove towards the diner, his mind racing with possibilities. He thought of Clara, her laughter, the way she remembered his coffee order without asking. He wondered if she would understand the tumult of emotions swirling within him. Would she see the man he hoped to become, or would she only see the man he had been? As he pulled into the diner's parking lot, he noticed the familiar yellow sign flickering overhead. The rain had begun to taper off, leaving the pavement glistening in the soft morning light. He parked and sat for a moment, taking in the scene, the peeling paint on the diner, the chipped window frames, the way the sun cast shadows on the ground. It was all so familiar, yet it felt like he was seeing it for the first time. He stepped out of the truck, the sound of his boots crunching on wet gravel mingling with the distant hum of passing cars. The bell above the door jingled as he entered the diner, and the warmth enveloped him like a favorite old sweater. Clara was at the counter, wiping down the surface with a dishcloth, her back turned to him. He hesitated for a moment, wondering how to bridge the gap that had grown between them, if it had ever really existed at all. "Morning, Clara," he finally said, his voice a mix of nervousness and hope. She turned, her smile brightening the dimly lit space. "Evan, you're just in time for breakfast. What'll it be today?" He took a seat at the counter, the familiar creak of the stool beneath him bringing a sense of comfort. "Just coffee for now, Clara. Well, I've got something on my mind." Clara poured a fresh cup and placed it in front of him, her eyes steady and understanding. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Everything okay?" Evan hesitated, feeling the weight of the letters and the tape pressing on his conscience. "I found something in an old truck I bought. Letters and a cassette tape. It's complicated." Clara leaned in, her expression curious yet patient. "What kind of letters?" "Love letters," he admitted, feeling a strange vulnerability wash over him. "From a man to a woman. It's been stirring up a lot of feelings for me." She studied him for a moment, her gaze searching. "You've been keeping things bottled up for a long time, haven't you?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Evan felt a wave of emotion rise within him. "Yeah, I guess I have. I'm tired of running from the past. I want to be a better man, Clara." Clara nodded slowly, her expression softening. "You've got to face it, Evan. Whatever it is, you can't let it control you forever." Sometimes you have to confront your fears head-on. Her words struck a chord deep within him. They echoed the sentiment of the letters he had read, the man's voice on the tape. A reminder that a real man does come back, no matter how long it takes. He realized that it was time to stop allowing regret to dictate his choices. "Maybe I need to talk to her," he said, the thought forming more clearly in his mind. The woman in the letters. I know it sounds crazy, but maybe reaching out could help. Clara's eyes sparkled with encouragement. If it feels right, then you should do it. You have nothing to lose. Evan took a deep breath, the warmth of the coffee in his hands grounding him. You're right. I've been holding back for too long. I want to know her story. I want to know if she found the peace she was looking for. As he sat there sipping his coffee, he felt a sense of resolve settling within him. It was time to confront his own past, to reach out and connect with those he had lost along the way. The journey wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to take the first step. Thanks, Clara, he said, looking into her eyes. You always know what to say. Just remember, Evan, it's never too late to change your story, she replied, her smile genuine, filled with the warmth of shared understanding. With renewed determination, Evan finished his coffee and stood up, ready to face whatever lay ahead. He left the diner, the bell jingling behind him, and climbed back into his truck. The rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and crisp. He felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. As he drove away, he couldn't shake the feeling that the pieces of his life were finally beginning to fall into place. The letters, the tape, and Clara's encouragement had ignited something within him, a desire to reconnect, to embrace the messiness of life instead of shying away from it. He would find the woman from the letters, the one who had waited, the one whose heart had been left hanging in the balance. The journey ahead was uncertain, but he knew that sometimes the hardest roads lead to the most meaningful destinations. And so, with every mile he drove, he felt a sense of purpose guiding him forward, a quiet hope that whispered, "You can come back." Evan's heart raced as he set out in his truck, the sound of the engine roaring to life as he pulled onto the empty highway. The air was crisp, and the remnants of rain clung to the pavement like memories that refused to fade. He felt a sense of urgency, a calling to uncover the truth behind the letters he had found. He knew that the journey ahead would not be easy, but he was determined to face whatever lay in store. Turning onto I-35, he felt a wave of nostalgia wash over him. This was the same road that had seen countless travelers come and go, each with their own stories to tell. The tall grass swayed in the wind, and the distant hills rolled gently beneath the overcast sky. The landscape felt alive, almost as if it was urging him on, pushing him toward something greater than himself. With each passing mile, Evan's thoughts drifted back to the letters. The words had seeped into his consciousness, igniting a fire within him. He imagined the woman waiting for her love, her heart beating with hope and despair. What had happened to her? Was she still waiting, or had she moved on? Would she even want to hear from him? As he drove, he made a mental note of the small towns that dotted the landscape, each one a potential clue leading him closer to her. He remembered the name mentioned in the letters, and with each town he passed, he wondered if it might be hers. There was a thrill in the uncertainty, a sense that he was unraveling a mystery that had been dormant for far too long. After an hour on the road, he reached the first town, a quaint little place called Maplewood. The sun peeked through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the storefronts. He parked his truck outside a small cafe, the sign reading, Sweet Pea Cafe. The scent of freshly baked pastries wafted out, beckoning him inside. Evan entered the cafe, the bell above the door jingling softly. The interior was cozy, filled with the chatter of locals and the clinking of dishes. He approached the counter, where a young woman with bright red hair and freckles was arranging freshly baked muffins. "Morning, what can I get for you?" she asked, her smile warm and inviting. "Just a coffee, please," Evan replied, trying to shake off the nervous energy that had built up inside him. "And, do you know anyone around here with the last name from this letter?" He pulled out the first letter, the name scribbled in the faded ink. The barista leaned closer, squinting at the name. I'm not sure, but I think I've heard that name mentioned before. There's an older couple who live just outside of town, might be related. You could ask them. Evan thanked her, feeling a sense of excitement build within him. Do you know where they live? She scribbled down directions on a napkin and handed it to him. It's a bit of a drive, but worth it if you're looking for answers. With a grateful smile, Evan took the napkin and left the cafe, his heart pounding with anticipation. He hopped back into his truck and followed the winding road out of town, guided by the barista's instructions. As he drove, he couldn't help but wonder about the couple, what stories they held, what memories they carried with them. Finally, he arrived at a quaint farmhouse nestled among the fields. The white paint was peeling, and the front porch sagged slightly, but there was an undeniable charm about it. He parked and stepped out, feeling the cool breeze against his skin as he approached the door. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever awaited him inside. As he knocked on the door, the soft sound echoed in the stillness of the afternoon. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing an elderly woman with silver hair and kind brown eyes. She smiled warmly, her face weathered yet radiant. "Hello, dear. Can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft and inviting. "Hi, ma'am. I'm Evan. I found some letters that mentioned your last name, and I was hoping you could help me," he replied, feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. The woman's expression shifted, curiosity piqued. "Oh, come in, dear. I'd love to hear more." Evan stepped inside, the aroma of freshly baked bread wafting through the air. The cozy living room was filled with family photos, the walls adorned with memories of a life well lived. He sat down on a worn but comfortable couch, and the woman took a seat across from him. "Now tell me about these letters," she said, her eyes sparkling with interest. Evan explained the story behind the letters, how he had found them in an old truck and the impact they had on him. He shared snippets of what he had read, emphasizing the longing and regret expressed within the words. The woman listened intently, her expression shifting as she absorbed his story. "I remember that name," she finally said, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "My husband and I knew a couple many years ago. Young love, full of promise. Tragic, really. They were inseparable until life took them in different directions." Evan leaned in closer, eager for more details. "What happened to them? Did they ever find their way back to each other?" The woman sighed, her gaze distant. "Life has a way of pulling us apart, doesn't it? The man you speak of, he went off to serve in the military, and the woman waited for him. But the war changed him. When he returned, he was not the same young man she had loved. He struggled, and eventually they drifted apart. I don't know if they ever found closure." Evan's heart sank. The weight of unfulfilled promises hung heavy in the air. "So she never heard from him again?" The woman shook her head solemnly. "I don't believe so. It was a painful time for many. Life moved on, and sometimes we lose track of the people we once held dear." Evan felt a mix of emotions swirling within him, a sense of loss for the couple's love story, but also a newfound resolve to not let his own past slip away. "Do you know if she still lives in the area?" The woman leaned back, her brow furrowed in thought. "I believe she moved to the city after that. It's been years, but I think she still has family around here. You might find her if you ask the right people." Evan felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. "Thank you for sharing this with me. I really appreciate it." The woman smiled, her eyes softening. "Just remember to cherish the moments you have. Life is too short to let love slip away." As he left the farmhouse, the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the fields. Evan felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had learned about the couple's struggles, but he was determined to write a different ending to his own story. He climbed back into his truck, the road ahead stretching out before him like a blank canvas. With each mile, he thought about the woman waiting to hear from her love. He pictured her, perhaps still carrying the weight of unanswered questions, and he felt a surge of compassion. He wondered what her life had been like since the letters had stopped coming. Had she found happiness? Did she still hold a piece of her heart for the man who had promised to return? Evan drove into the next town, a bustling place called Riverbend. The streets were alive with activity, illuminated by the warm glow of shop fronts and restaurants. He parked near a small community center where a sign announced a local event that evening. As he stepped out of the truck, he could hear laughter and music wafting through the air. Curiosity piqued. He followed the sounds, weaving through the crowd until he reached the entrance. The community center was filled with people mingling, sharing stories, and enjoying each other's company. It was a vibrant scene, a reminder of the connections that could be forged in the most unexpected places. Evan approached a booth set up for information about the town's history. An elderly man with a white beard was chatting with a group of people. He gathered his courage and approached the man, introducing himself. "Excuse me, sir. I'm looking for someone with the last name from these letters. Do you happen to know anyone by that name?" he asked, showing the man a copy of the letter. The man furrowed his brow, glancing at the letter. "Ah, yes, I remember. That family used to live here years ago. I believe they moved to the city, but their daughter still comes around occasionally. You might find her at the local library." Evan's heart raced. "Do you know her name?" "Her name is Mary," the man replied, a twinkle in his eye. "She's been active in the community, always helping out with events. If you're looking for her, that's a good place to start." With gratitude, Evan thanked the man and made his way to the library, his mind racing with anticipation. As he arrived, he could see lights shining through the windows. The library was alive with activity, and he pushed the door open, stepping inside. The interior was warm and inviting, with shelves of books lining the walls. A few patrons were scattered about, browsing through the aisles. He approached the front desk, where a young woman with glasses was sorting through returns. "Excuse me," he said, his voice wavering slightly. "I'm looking for someone named Mary. Do you know if she's here?" The woman's eyes lit up with recognition. "Oh, Mary. Yes, she comes here often. You might find her in the reading room." Evan felt a mix of excitement and nerves as he made his way toward the reading room. The door creaked open, revealing a cozy space filled with plush chairs and warm lighting. In the corner, he spotted a woman with long, dark hair, engrossed in a book. Her features were soft. There was an air of kindness about her that drew him in. Taking a deep breath, Evan approached her. "Excuse me, are you Mary?" She looked up, her eyes meeting his, and for a moment, the world around them faded away. "Yes, that's me. Can I help you?" Evan hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment. "I found some letters that mentioned your name. I wanted to talk to you about them." Mary's expression shifted, curiosity mingling with surprise. "Letters? What kind of letters?" He explained the story, the letters and the cassette tape, the man who had written them, and the love that had been left hanging in the balance. As he spoke, he watched her reaction, the way her eyes widened, the way her breath caught. After he finished, silence settled between them, thick with unspoken emotions. "Those letters, they were from someone I loved," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I had given up hope of ever hearing from him again." Evan felt a pang of empathy. "I'm so sorry. I can't imagine how hard that must have been for you." Mary smiled sadly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It was a difficult time. I waited for years, but life moved on. I had to find my own path." Evan nodded, the weight of her words resonating deeply within him. "I wanted to reach out to you because I believe the past shouldn't be forgotten. Maybe there's still a chance for closure, for understanding." She looked at him, a flicker of hope in her gaze. "Closure? After all this time?" "Sometimes a conversation is all we need," he replied earnestly. "To remember, to forgive, and to heal." Mary's expression softened as she contemplated his words, You're right. I've carried that weight for far too long, but it's scary to revisit those feelings. Evan felt a swell of compassion for her. You don't have to do it alone. I'm here to listen if you want to talk. She took a deep breath, the air thick with emotion. Okay, let's talk. As they settled into the plush chairs, the library filled with the soft sound of their voices. Two strangers brought together by fate, each carrying their own scars and stories. They exchanged memories, shared laughter, and let the weight of the past guide their conversation. Do you think he ever thought about me? Mary asked, her voice trembling. I believe he did. Evan replied gently. The letters spoke of love and longing. He wanted nothing more than to come back to you. Tears filled her eyes as she allowed herself to remember the young man she had loved. He was my best friend. We had so many dreams together. I thought we'd grow old together. Evan reached out, placing a comforting hand on her arm. Life had other plans, but that doesn't negate what you shared. Those memories are still a part of you. Mary smiled through her tears, a sense of relief washing over her. Thank you for being here. I didn't know I needed this. Neither did I, Evan admitted. But I think we both found something today. As the sun began to set outside, casting a golden hue through the library windows, Evan felt a sense of closure beginning to settle in his own heart. The journey he had embarked on was not just about finding answers for Mary. It was also about his own path of healing and growth. Would you like to keep in touch? He asked, a hopeful note in his voice. I'd love to hear more about your journey, and you could share your stories with me. Mary's smile blossomed. I'd like that. It's been a long time since I've had someone to share my thoughts with. They exchanged contact information and made plans to meet again. As Evan left the library, he felt as though a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He had taken a step toward healing, both for himself and for the woman who had waited for a love that had once burned brightly. Driving back home, he reflected on the day's events. He had ventured into the unknown, and in doing so, he had unearthed pieces of himself that had long been buried. He realized that life was a series of interconnected stories, each one shaping who we are. As he pulled into his driveway, the stars began to twinkle above him, a reminder that even in the darkest of times there was still light to be found. He thought of Clara, the barista, and the encouragement she had given him. He thought of the letters and the tape that had set him on this journey. Each moment had led him here, to this place of understanding and connection. Evan knew that life would continue to throw challenges his way, but he felt ready to face them. He had learned the value of confronting the past, of reaching out, and of embracing the unknown. He stepped out of his truck, feeling the cool evening air on his skin, and took a moment to appreciate the beauty of the world around him. As he headed inside, he knew that his story was far from over. There were still chapters left to write, and he was determined to make them meaningful, filled with connections, love, and the courage to face whatever came next. The sun rose slowly over Mason City, casting a warm golden glow across the familiar landscape. Evan stood at his kitchen window, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, reflecting on the whirlwind of emotions that had engulfed him over the past few days. The letters he had found, the conversations he had shared with Mary, and the connection he felt to his own past had forged a path of clarity he had not anticipated. He had spent the night thinking about Mary. Her laughter, her tears, and the shared stories had carved a place in his heart, awakening feelings he had long buried beneath the weight of his routine. He realized that in helping her confront her past, he was also confronting his own, his fears, his regrets, and the relationships he had let slip through his fingers. As the morning light filtered through the window, Evan made a decision. He would reach out to the people in his life he had neglected, the friends he had lost touch with, and perhaps most importantly, Clara, the waitress at the diner who had been a constant presence, yet whom he had never taken the time to really know. It was time to change that. Finishing his coffee, Evan grabbed his jacket and headed out. The drive to Clara's diner felt different today. The familiar streets seemed to hum with a new energy, a sense of possibility that had been absent before. He parked in his usual spot and stepped into the diner, the bell above the door jingling as it always did. "Morning, Evan," Clara called from behind the counter, her voice bright and cheerful. "Morning, Clara." "Can I get my usual?" he replied, taking his seat at the counter. As she poured his coffee, Evan took a moment to observe her. The way she moved with grace, how she made small talk with the regulars, and the warmth in her smile, all of it made him realize how much he appreciated her presence in his life. "Thank you for always being here," he said, surprising himself with the sincerity of his words. Clara looked at him, a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Of course, Evan. It's my job, but it's more than that. I enjoy seeing familiar faces sharing moments. I've been thinking, I'd like to get to know you better. I mean, really get to know you," Evan admitted, his heart racing at the vulnerability of his confession. Clara stopped what she was doing, her expression softening. "Really? That sounds nice. What did you have in mind?" "Maybe we could grab dinner or something, just the two of us," he suggested, his voice steady but filled with hope. A smile broke across Clara's face, illuminating her features. "I'd like that, Evan. Let's make it happen." As they finalized plans for dinner that evening, Evan felt lighter, as if a weight had lifted off his shoulders. This was a step toward not just reconnecting with Clara, but also rediscovering himself. He could feel the change happening within him, and it excited him. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Evan worked on fixing up cars at the garage, his hands busy yet his mind focused on the coming evening. He felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. He wanted to make sure that their dinner would be special. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Evan found himself standing in front of his mirror, adjusting his shirt. He wanted to look nice, to show Clara he cared. He caught a glimpse of himself, a man who was ready to embrace life, imperfections and all. When he arrived at the diner that evening, Clara was already waiting for him at the booth. She looked beautiful in a simple blue dress that complemented her warmth. Evan felt his breath catch at the sight of her, and he couldn't help but grin. "Hey, you look fantastic," he said, sliding into the booth across from her. "Thank you. So do you," she replied, her eyes sparkling with delight. They spent the evening talking, sharing stories and laughter as they enjoyed their meal. Clara opened up about her life, sharing her dreams and aspirations beyond the diner. Evan found himself captivated by her passion, the way her eyes lit up when she spoke about her love for art and the community programs she hoped to get involved with. "And what about you, Evan? What are your dreams?" she asked, leaning forward, genuinely interested. Evan paused, contemplating his answer. "I've always loved fixing things, working with my hands. I guess I've never really thought about what my dreams are beyond that. After talking with Mary, I realized I've let the past hold me back from seeking more. I want to reconnect with the people in my life, explore what makes me happy beyond the routine." Clara nodded, her expression thoughtful. "That sounds like a great start. Life is too short to let fear dictate our choices." As the night wore on, they shared more than just their dreams. They shared vulnerabilities, laughter, and a newfound connection. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and Evan couldn't shake the feeling that he had finally found someone with whom he could be himself. After dinner, they took a walk through the nearby park, the evening air crisp and refreshing. The stars shimmered above them as they strolled along the path, the sound of leaves crunching beneath their feet creating a soothing backdrop. "I'm really glad we did this," Clara said, breaking the comfortable silence. "I feel like I've known you forever." "Me too," Evan replied, feeling a warmth spread through him. "It's nice to connect with someone who understands." As they reached a small pond, the water reflecting the starlight, Evan took a moment to enjoy the tranquility of the scene. Everything felt right in that moment, the stillness, the connection, and the promise of new beginnings. "Do you think we could do this more often?" Clara asked, her voice softer now. "I'd like that," Evan said, taking a step closer. "I'd really like that." They exchanged smiles, a shared understanding passing between them. There was a spark of something more, a possibility that hung in the air, waiting to be explored. As they walked back to the diner, Evan felt a sense of hope blossoming within him. He had not only taken steps to reconnect with Clara, but had also begun to forge a path of self-discovery. The shadows of his past were beginning to lighten, a testament to the power of connection and vulnerability. Over the next few weeks, Evan and Clara spent more time together. They explored the town, visited art galleries, and shared stories over coffee at the diner. Each encounter deepened their bond, and Evan found himself opening up in ways he hadn't thought possible. Clara's presence brought joy and light into his life, and he cherished every moment they shared. One evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the river, Clara turned to him, her expression serious. "Evan, I've really enjoyed our time together. You've helped me see things in a new light." "I feel the same way," he replied, his heart racing. "You've brought out a side of me I didn't know existed." Clara smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I think we both have a lot to learn from each other, and I'm excited to see where this goes." Evan nodded, feeling a sense of contentment wash over him. "Me too, Clara. I want to explore this, whatever this is." Their hands brushed against each other, and Evan felt a spark of electricity at the contact. He looked into her eyes, and in that moment, he knew they were both ready to embrace what lay ahead. As the weeks turned into months, Evan's connection with Clara blossomed. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, one that extended beyond just their relationship. He began to reach out to old friends, rekindling connections that had faded with time. He volunteered at local events, helping Clara organize art shows and community gatherings. Through it all, he carried the lessons learned from Mary's story and the letters he had found. They served as reminders of the importance of love, connection, and the courage to face his past. Evan had finally started to navigate the complex tapestry of life, embracing both the joys and the pains. One evening, after a successful art show, he and Clara stood together, admiring the vibrant paintings lined up on the walls. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as people mingled, discussing their favorite pieces. "I'm so proud of you," Clara said, her eyes shining with admiration. "You've really thrown yourself into this." "I couldn't have done it without you," Evan replied, feeling a surge of gratitude. "You've inspired me to be bolder, to seek the connections that matter." As they leaned against the wall, watching the crowd, Evan realized how far he had come. The journey had not been without its challenges, but with Clara by his side, he felt ready to embrace whatever came next. "Thank you for being my partner in this," he said, turning to her. "I really don't know where I'd be without you." Clara smiled, her warmth radiating. "I feel the same way. You've changed my perspective on life, and I'm grateful for it." In that shared moment of vulnerability, Evan felt a wave of certainty wash over him. He knew that life would continue to throw challenges their way, but with Clara, he felt equipped to face them head-on. Together, they were building a life filled with connection, laughter, and love, a life that was beautiful in its imperfection. As the evening progressed and the crowd began to dwindle, Evan took Clara's hand, feeling the electricity of their connection. "Let's create our own story," he said, his voice steady with determination. "Together," Clara replied, squeezing his hand gently. With hearts full of hope and eyes set on the future, they stepped into the night, ready to embrace the journey ahead, united by love, friendship, and the promise of new beginnings. The days turned into weeks, and as summer began to wane, Evan felt a transformation within himself. His connection with Clara had deepened, blossoming into something beautiful and meaningful. They spent countless evenings together, sharing stories, laughter, and dreams over coffee at the diner or during long walks in the park. With each passing moment, the weight of his past began to lift, replaced by a sense of belonging and hope. However, beneath the surface of this newfound happiness, Evan felt an undeniable tension. The unresolved feelings tied to the letters he had found lingered in the back of his mind. He knew that he needed to visit Mary again, to continue their conversation, and help her find closure, not just for her sake but for his own as well. One crisp September afternoon, after finishing a long day at the garage, he drove to the library where he had last seen Mary. The air was filled with the scent of falling leaves and the promise of change. As he parked his truck, he took a deep breath, reminding himself that this had to be done. He wanted to help her, to provide the kind of understanding that had eluded them both for so long. Entering the library, Evan was greeted by the familiar warmth of the space. He made his way to the reading room and found Mary sitting at a table, surrounded by books. Her face lit up when she saw him. "Evan, I'm glad to see you," she exclaimed, rising to greet him. "I was hoping you'd come by." "Hey, Mary, I've been thinking about our last conversation," he said, taking a seat across from her. "I feel like we have more to discuss." Mary nodded, her expression serious yet hopeful. "I've been thinking about it too. I've had a lot on my mind since we talked last." Evan leaned in, his heart racing. "I believe it's important for both of us to explore what those letters meant, not just for the past but also for our present." Mary's eyes sparkled with understanding. "You're right. It's time I confront those memories and see how they've shaped me. I don't want to carry the weight of unspoken words any longer." With a gentle nod, Evan offered her the space to share her thoughts. "Whenever you're ready." Mary took a deep breath, gathering her emotions. "I realized I spent so many years waiting for someone who was lost to me. I built my life around the memories, but I never allowed myself to move on. It's time to let go." Evan felt a surge of empathy. "You're incredibly brave for acknowledging that. You deserve to find happiness, and holding on to the past can make it hard to embrace the present." "But how do I let go?" she asked, vulnerability lacing her voice. "By telling your story," he replied softly. "Share your memories, the good and the bad. Maybe writing it down or even speaking it out loud can help. You're not alone in this." Mary nodded, her resolve strengthening. "I think I'd like to do that. Thank you for guiding me through this." As they continued their conversation, Evan encouraged Mary to reflect on her past relationship. They talked about her hopes, the dreams she had shared with the man she loved, and the pain of waiting for a promise that never came. Evan listened intently, feeling honored that she chose to share such intimate details with him. "I wanted to grow old with him," Mary confessed, tears glistening in her eyes. "I thought he would always come back, but I realize now that I can't wait any longer. Life is too precious." Evan reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. "You've shown remarkable strength, Mary. It's time to honor yourself and the life you have ahead of you." Mary smiled through her tears, finding solace in Evan's words. "Thank you for being here for me." As the afternoon sun streamed through the library windows, Evan felt an overwhelming sense of connection between them. They were both navigating their pasts, understanding that healing often comes from confronting pain. He admired Mary's bravery and felt honored to be part of her journey. "Would you like to write your story together?" Evan suggested gently. "We can document your memories and celebrate the love you had, while also allowing you to step forward into a new chapter." Mary's eyes brightened. "That sounds wonderful. I'd love to do that." They spent the next hour brainstorming ideas, writing down memories and laughing about the funny moments they had shared. With each word they penned, the burden of the past began to lift, replaced by a sense of empowerment. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the library, Evan felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. He had not only helped Mary confront her past, but he had also taken meaningful steps toward his own healing. "Thank you, Evan," Mary said, her voice filled with gratitude. "This means more to me than you know." Evan smiled, feeling a deep sense of camaraderie. "You're doing the hard work, Mary. I'm just here to support you." As they wrapped up their session, Mary looked at him thoughtfully. "What about you? Have you found closure in your own life?" Evan considered her question, the weight of his journey settling in. I've learned that it's important to embrace the connections we have, to not let fear hold us back. Clara, she's become a significant part of my life, and I'm ready to explore that. Mary's smile widened. I'm glad to hear that. You deserve happiness too, Evan. With a renewed sense of purpose, Evan left the library feeling lighter than ever. He had faced his past and helped Mary confront hers. That evening, they made plans to meet again, excited to continue their journey together. As he drove home, Evan glanced at the stars twinkling overhead and felt grateful for the connections he had forged. He thought about Clara and how she had supported him through this process, encouraging him to embrace vulnerability and love. Later that night, as he lay in bed, Evan thought about the journey that lay ahead. He felt a sense of hope blossoming within him, knowing that he was ready to face whatever came next. The following day, he reached out to Clara, asking her to meet him for dinner once again. He wanted to share what he had experienced with Mary and how it had inspired him to embrace life. That evening, sitting across from Clara in their usual booth, Evan felt a surge of excitement. You know, I've been doing a lot of thinking, he began, feeling the warmth of her gaze on him. About connections, relationships, and how important it is to embrace what we have. Clara leaned in, her eyes sparkling with interest. I'm listening. I've had a chance to help someone confront their past, he said, carefully choosing his words. And it made me realize how much I want to embrace our connection. Clara's smile softened, her expression mirroring his sincerity. Evan, I've felt the same way. You've brought so much joy into my life. I want to take things further, Clara. I want to learn and grow together, he said, his heart pounding. I'm ready to explore this relationship and see where it leads. Tears shimmered in Clara's eyes and she reached across the table, taking his hand. I'd love that, Evan. I've been waiting for you to say this. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of the diner and the hum of laughter around them, Evan felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was ready to embrace the connections that mattered, to write his own story filled with love, understanding, and the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would navigate the complexities of life, cherishing the moments of joy while also honoring the lessons of the past. With Clara by his side and the promise of new beginnings ahead, Evan felt ready to embark on a journey of love and deeper connection. The crisp autumn air wrapped around Evan and Clara as they strolled hand in hand through the vibrant park, the leaves painted in hues of orange and gold. Each step felt lighter, filled with the promise of new beginnings. They had spent the past few weeks deepening their connection, exploring their shared interests and supporting each other in ways they hadn't anticipated. Evan felt a sense of freedom he hadn't known in years. His conversations with Mary had helped him grow, pushing him to confront his past while simultaneously opening his heart to the present. He marveled at how the simple act of being vulnerable had led him to this moment. Do you remember the first time we met? Clara asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Evan chuckled, recalling the memory. Of course. You were serving me coffee, and I spilled it all over the table. Clara laughed, her eyes sparkling with delight. You were so flustered, but I saw something in you that day, something real. Yeah? What was that? He asked, genuinely curious. She paused for a moment, her expression thoughtful. A genuine kindness. You were quiet, but there was a depth to you. I sensed that there was more beneath the surface. Evan smiled, feeling a warm flush of affection. I guess I was just afraid to show it, but you've brought it out of me. As they moved deeper into the park, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead. Evan felt a surge of gratitude for Clara's presence in his life. She had helped him embrace the beauty of connection and the importance of living in the moment. Evan, Clara said, her tone shifting slightly. I've been thinking about how we've both been on these journeys of self-discovery. I appreciate how you've encouraged me to be open about my past. Evan nodded, sensing the gravity of her words. I've learned that sharing our stories makes us stronger. We can't carry the weight of our experiences alone. Clara hesitated, her gaze dropping to the ground. "There's something I need to tell you. It's about my past, about my family." Evan's heart raced. He squeezed her hand gently, urging her to continue. "You can tell me anything, Clara." She breathed deeply, gathering her thoughts. "I haven't always had an easy relationship with my family. When I was younger, I felt a lot of pressure to be perfect. My parents always held high expectations and I struggled to meet them. There were times I felt like I was disappointing them no matter what I did." Evan felt a pang of empathy. "That sounds really difficult. I can't imagine the weight that put on you." Clara nodded, her eyes reflecting a mix of sadness and strength. "It was hard to break free from that. I often felt like I was living someone else's life instead of my own. It took me time to understand that I needed to forge my own path, to embrace who I really am." "I'm proud of you for doing that," Evan said softly. "It takes a lot of courage to step away from expectations and embrace your authenticity." "I just want you to know where I've come from," Clara continued, her voice steady, "and that I'm still working through it. I don't want to hide parts of myself anymore." "Thank you for sharing that with me," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "You don't have to carry that burden alone. I'm here for you and I want to support you in your journey." Clara's smile returned, her eyes glistening with appreciation. "It means so much to hear you say that. I feel like we're building something real together." Evan nodded, feeling the weight of their conversation settle in. "We are. I want us to be open with each other about everything. It's important to me." As they continued their stroll through the autumn foliage, Evan realized how far he had come. He had opened up about his own fears and vulnerabilities, allowing Clara to see him as he truly was. Together they were building a foundation of trust, one that would support them as they navigated their respective journeys. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the park, Clara turned to Evan. "I've been thinking too. Maybe we could meet each other's families. It might help us both feel more grounded, especially as we deepen our connection." Evan felt a mix of excitement and apprehension at the thought. "That sounds great, but I'm also a bit nervous. My family can be a bit complicated." "Mine too," Clara admitted with a soft laugh. "But I think it could be a good step for us. We both deserve to share this part of our lives with each other." Evan considered her words, feeling a sense of determination rise within him. "You're right, let's set a date for it." They walked side by side, planning how they would introduce each other to their families. The idea of sharing this part of their lives felt like a significant step forward, one that would further solidify their bond. As the evening came to a close, they returned to Evan's truck and headed back to his place, the air filled with laughter and the excitement of what lay ahead. The park had been a space of reflection, but now it felt like the beginning of something even greater. That night, as Evan lay in bed, he found himself replaying the day's events in his mind. He felt grateful for Clara's openness and the way they were navigating their past together. They were both taking significant steps toward healing and growth. The thought of meeting Clara's family excited him, but it also stirred up memories of his own family dynamics. He hoped they would accept Clara, just as he had come to embrace her presence in his life. As he drifted off to sleep, a sense of peace enveloped him. He knew that the road ahead might be challenging, but he was ready to face it hand in hand with Clara. Together, they would confront their pasts, embrace the present, and build a future filled with love and understanding. The following week, excitement buzzed in the air as Evan and Clara prepared to meet each other's families. They had decided to have a casual dinner at the community center, a comfortable setting that would make introductions easier. Evan tidied up his small house, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness. He wanted to make a good impression. When Clara arrived, her warm smile eased his nerves. "Ready?" she asked, her enthusiasm infectious. "Ready as I'll ever be," he replied with a nervous chuckle. They drove to the community center where Evan's family was hosting the dinner. The aroma of home-cooked meals filled the room, accompanied by the sounds of laughter and chatter. As they entered, Evan spotted his parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins mingling in the lively atmosphere. "Evan, there you are," his mother called out, waving them over. "I'm so glad you're here. And you must be Clara. I've heard so much about you." "Hi, Mrs. Thompson, it's nice to finally meet you," Clara responded, her voice warm. Evan's mother beamed, pulling Clara into a quick hug. "Welcome to the family dinner. We're so glad you could join us." As the evening unfolded, Clara fit seamlessly into the chaos, charming Evan's family with her genuine nature. They shared stories, laughter, and delicious food, and Evan felt a wave of relief wash over him. His family was welcoming Clara with open arms. At one point, while stepping outside for a breather, Evan turned to Clara, a smile on his face. "I can't believe how well this is going. You're amazing with my family." Clara smiled, leaning against the railing. "Thanks. They're wonderful. I'm glad we did this." Evan took a deep breath, feeling clarity. "I worried about how they'd perceive you, but you've made it easy. It feels like we're building something real together." Clara looked at him, her expression softening. "We are, Evan. I'm happy to be on this journey with you." As the evening wound down, Evan felt warmth within him. Both families had connected, allowing him to embrace the growth in their relationship. When they finally said their goodbyes, Evan took Clara's hand, squeezing it gently. "Thank you for being here tonight. It meant a lot." Clara smiled, her eyes shining. "Thank you for inviting me. I feel like we took a big step together." On the drive home, the night sky twinkled above them and Evan felt peace enveloping him. With Clara by his side, he knew they could face anything together. The past had shaped them, but their shared present held the promise of a bright future filled with love, connection, and the courage to embrace whatever came next.